I'm delighted to welcome Suffolk Community Foundation's Chairman, George Vestey, and the Chief Executive, Stephen Singleton. George, can I start with you? Now, it hardly seems a year since we were doing this, actually, but it is a year since the last annual review. Could you give us a feeling of where things are now?
Well, a lot of water's gone under the bridge since we met 12 months ago. And in that time, I think our focus has been on two main issues. Number one, dealing with the deeper rooted issues of the COVID pandemic. And secondly, starting the process of delivering on our hidden needs report, which highlighted long-term embedded deprivation in many parts of the county.
And what do you think is the most important component that, despite everything, you've managed to hang on to through the last year?
Well, the Suffolk Community Foundation has always been about partnership across the public, private and voluntary sectors. We convene and work with others to deliver solutions. And because we were well set up for that, our reaction to the pandemic was very rapid, and we were able to deliver immediate help into communities. So building on that partnership theme to deal with the longer term issues around COVID, and in particular to start the process of finding lasting solutions to the hidden needs issues that have been raised in our report. So partnership has been, the essential criteria.
And this is what will drive everything forward from here.
It drives everything forward because none of us can do things alone. We have to convene, collaborate, work together, and that is what our principal function is.
So with the right amount of positivity, which I know you have very much at the Foundation, big challenges can lead on to major opportunities. And what do you see as the most important opportunities going forward?
Well, I think during the pandemic, there was a major realization about the importance of local community. We all had a shared experience of how the pandemic affected us and our neighbours, and of our ability to do something about that. So local community, volunteering, helping neighbours, helping to find solutions and deliver solutions to those in need within our own local communities. So I think that's been the biggest plus, and I really hope that we can hang on to the positive energy created within local communities, and people recognizing that don't rely on others from far away to order how your community exists. Be part of that process of finding and delivering solutions. So taking ownership and helping our wonderful voluntary sector across the county. And in order for that to work, our voluntary sector does need not only support in terms of time and effort, but also financial support. They have been through an extremely tough time. So giving locally in order to enable local decision making is absolutely vital.
George, thank you very much. So, Stephen, the energy is there, a positive attitude at the Foundation and in the county to keep things moving forward. But can you help us a little further to understand how serious the need is and what the key areas of concern are?
Well, you couldn't ask that on a better day. The BBC this morning spoke about the voluntary sector being overwhelmed this winter. And in fact, we've had 18 months of this. So we're seeing various things happen with the voluntary organisations in Suffolk. The first area is those that are large enough to have been able to provide services throughout the pandemic and post-pandemic and going into the winter. They've had really big challenges. Number one, they've lost a lot of volunteers. Number two, it's been almost impossible to fundraise. So the Foundation has come in and really supported them with emergency funding to help get through that with all the other funders around the country and around the county. For small organisations, they have actually had to furlough their services for greater parts because of social distancing. So it's been incredibly difficult for them. And again, I think we've played an important role in paying those small bills that go on whatever's happening, and to keep them alive. And then at a third level, there's real challenges around organisations that are dealing with older people, particularly. So many services are delivered by older people for older people, such as luncheon clubs. And to date, very few of those have really got going again because of all the issues associated with that. And they've clearly lost volunteers as well in the process. So that's another real challenging area. It probably isn't all doom and gloom. George mentioned about community spirit and community reaction, and we're seeing lots of new organisations develop because people have had a taste of how they can help. They remembered what it's like to help other people. So some of those voluntary structures that come together are now constituting themselves to carry on delivering services. So that's really positive.
What about mental health issues? Because there have been very worrying reports about what this has done, particularly to young people.
Yeah, there's been two really big spikes in our grant making, huge spikes. I don't want to use the epidemic word because we don't know the end of it. But one is around mental health, and it's really across all society. There's a lot of isolation going on for older people that maybe are retired, living alone. So that's equally problematic as it is for younger people. But talking about younger people, it is absolutely at levels never experienced before from our experience. So there's all sorts of ways that the voluntary sector are getting involved, which not necessarily a traditional counselling, they can be, but it's often getting them into the environment, it's trying to bring people together, it's creating forums for the young people to talk to each other. And we're also working with health bodies to actually try and raise awareness of how it manifests itself. So self-harming is a clear clue of much greater issues down the road. So that's one area. The other area that's is not receding at all is financial hardship. And so much of the grant making we are delivering, and I'm really pleased to say that this is in partnership with public sector organisations, is around hardship funding to individuals and to families and to older people. Later on we'll see Surviving Winter, where we are with that during the session today, but we are expecting unprecedented levels of people requesting support for fuel poverty, winter fuel poverty.
But perhaps with our shared experience of the pandemic, we have seen a sort of surge of goodwill, and as George has said, thinking local and whatever. So there are opportunities here, aren't there?
There are opportunities. There are really opportunities. Now, how do we cover a very broad sector and talk about those? I think let's talk about it from grassroots up. We need younger people to come through, and there's no doubt that the pandemic has brought neighbours together, younger peoples, young mums, all working together. So actually we're breeding the next breed of philanthropists in all sorts of ways. So that's a real opportunity. I think also the need, well, the thing that's really happened is though the partnership working is absolutely fundamental for the foundation, because we are connecting those that have financial resource with those that need it. It's in our DNA. But what we've really seen happen is all organisations are working together at a level that we've not seen before. The barriers between public sector and voluntary sector, not just one organisation to another, but whole groups of organisations working together to tackle the most pressing causes, are beginning to happen. And I can't see them receding at all. I think we're on a journey now. So I'm optimistic that at that level that there's going to be a positive out of the pandemic. And we must remember that there were big social problems before we went through that, and those social problems, as George has alluded to, are still there, and it's going to need partnership working. That's the opportunity.